Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with life coaches Linda Armstrong and Rita Giganti. Today is Friday, September the 18th, 2020. It's 4 p.m. New York time. Wherever you are in the world, thanks for tuning in for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And Rita, a few weeks ago, you gave me a little message from Spirit, and look how it has kind of spiraled. I mean, it just kept going and going and going and going to the point now we're talking about getting onto local access TV here in Connecticut, and who knows, maybe even further than that. But I didn't anticipate this when you kind of interrupted the question and say, I got a message for you.
That's how they do it. They drop the bomb.
Well, they sure did, yeah, and it just keeps expanding and expanding. But it's good. Yesterday, actually, Daniel Mangena and I did an entire episode for a local access channel, and I'm figuring we can use it as like a presentation piece. So any local access channel that expresses interest in what we're doing, we can show them that, saying, okay, here's an example of what it would be like. And we really just went back to basics. We assumed that none of the listeners knew anything about law of attraction or source energy or anything like that. So we just made it a very simple program, but it was good. It also gave me pause because I realized, well, okay, if I'm making a video program, it's not just using the Zoom video. I got to create like opening credits and closing credits. I got to create like little visuals and so forth. So that's what I've been doing the last 24 hours is creating something fairly simple for that purpose. So I'm counting that in the category of taking inspired action, because, right, that's what we're supposed to do. When we get inspired, we're supposed to take action. So that's what I've been doing. And actually, I'm going to also put out a call for help. I made a mention of this on Wednesday, I think. But anyone in the U.S., any listener in the U.S., particularly in Connecticut, but really anywhere, if you'd be willing to help get the LOA Today show onto your local public access, because most states do have local public access somewhere in the state. If you'd be willing to volunteer for that, send me a note using the LOA Today app, and just let me know, and let's see how many different places we can get into, because I mean, there's a lot of towns in this country, So
what's required of a sponsor?
As far as I know, now I'm kind of extrapolating here because I'm working just with the information that I've gotten from local channels here, but from what I understand so far, all a sponsor really has to do is be the official representative of the show, so to speak, to ask, can you put us on the local channel? I mean, I can do all the rest. I just need to have somebody who lives in the town to say, yes, I want to get the show onto our local access channel. So that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for people who are just willing to say, yes, I'm willing to be that sponsor to help make that happen. And in most cases, I think it's probably just filling out a form online that I help you fill out and waiting to see what the local access channel people say.
Cool.
I had a really good conversation on the phone earlier this week with the director of the Hartford, Connecticut public access TV channel. And I mean, this guy was just dishing out information to me like crazy. I couldn't even keep up with the notes with all the information he was giving. But he was very encouraging. And I mean, the difficult, challenging thing during this time, not surprisingly, is that because of COVID, the studio is not directly available. But he jumped in and said, well, but on the other hand, what we've been encouraging our people to do is to use platforms like Zoom. I said, well, we use Zoom. He said, perfect. So again, it all is just kind of coming together. So it's cool. It's good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Now, also, since the last time you were on, Rita, we've gotten some emails from people who wrote in, particularly in response to the messages you were giving to them on previous shows. And I wanted to share some of those messages with you because they were pretty appreciative. First one, let's see, I got to bring it up here. First one comes from Kim, and she says, thank you for asking my question on the LOA Today podcast. Please give Rita and Linda a big thank you for listening and responding and giving me guidance. She says, I'm thrilled to know now that Rita's guides can see some psychic ability in me, especially in clairsentience. And yes, it feels true to me. I'm always responding to my kids' questions with not specific advice, but rather I tell them to do the one that feels right or feels better. My mom moved into her new house and wanted advice on what furniture to buy and how to place it. I had lots of ideas and it worked out beautifully, but I couldn't explain why I put things in certain spots, only that the room feels better to me that way. It just feels better. I often need time to answer a question or to give my opinion, which drives my husband mad at times. Not because I am weighing the pros and cons or researching the subject. It's more that I need the time to sit with the thought. The idea is to see how I feel overall. In what appears to be an emergency situation, I am too calm. This bothers people. I seem to know very quickly if it's all going to be okay. I'm planning on contacting Rita again through her website for a reading soon. So loving all the shows, from Kim.
Nice. Thank you.
And then Amy said, Rita, thank you so much for your answer about me and my block on the Friday podcast. I just burst out laughing at myself. The answer was right in front of me. I'm throwing out that overused word. So a success there.
That's great.
So, yeah, it always helps to have that feedback, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
I'm so grateful when that comes, yeah.
So, well, first of all, I haven't really brought you guys into it very much yet. So, Linda, first of all, how you doing today? You looking good? Except you have a comforter there. It must be kind of cool where you are.
It is cool where I am. Yeah. I have my nice warm snuggly thing. Rita, I got to turn you onto this website. It has a hood and you get all kinds of cool graphics and it's so warm. I can't wait for winter.
I love it. Yes, turn me on to that. It's just an absolute gorgeous day. You couldn't ask for a better day.
Yeah, that's really good.
You want to be outside the whole day because it's just, but in the morning it was like 50 degrees. I'm like, my God, we're in September still.
It was cold this morning, really cold.
It was, yeah. And it's going to be colder this weekend. But other than it being a little bit windy, it was beautiful so far today. And I see the sun's pouring in the window, so it's still beautiful, I guess. So,
yeah, we're on the cusp of fall. And if this is how it's going to be, I am grateful.
Well, obviously here in the Northeast, one of the staples of fall is the changing of the color of the leaves. And so far they haven't changed at all. And I'm kind of hopeful because if they change later, I don't know about you, my observation is when they change later, they tend to be more brilliant. So I'm kind of hoping for a really brilliant, colorful fall. It only lasts usually a week or two, but man, it can be gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, something else going good. Now I want to let everybody know once again, we mentioned this last week when Linda and I did the show about the subconscious mind, that we are getting away from doing the entire show about questions for Rita from a psychic perspective. We're going to make this a broader, more generalized show so that everybody gets involved in it, because the people who are enjoying Rita's psychic abilities are really enjoying it, but there's also a large segment that it just wasn't interesting to them, and so they were not listening. And it's like, no, this has got to be for everybody. And so, and Linda, by the way, as soon as we did a show that wasn't about that, the numbers spiked right back up again. So we're fine. Good news.
Yay! I love that you did the subconscious. That's awesome.
Yeah. That topic carried us for the entire show. Really, it was good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Linda had some wonderful input to give on it, and we even got some live stream input. So, yeah, it was good. Really good. Cool. So we do have questions for you, Rita, but we want to kind of mix them in. And I know Linda's got some cards ready in the offing there. Oh, yes, there's one other thing, one other piece of business. We have a guest coming next week, don't we, Linda?
Is it Harold next week?
No, it's Carlos.
Oh, Carlos, right.
Yeah, Carlos Bautista was a co-host on the show from, I believe, October through December of 2018. So he wasn't on for a real long time, but he did a lot of the Friday shows with Linda and I. And he's fun. He's a funny guy, right? But he's just fun. And apparently, what did he say to you? He has some sort of major story.
He says he has a really great manifesting story.
Yeah.
So, because I think he moved from California to New York once again.
I think he did, yeah.
And I think the post I saw was about a new position he's taken with some company. I don't know if it's in New York or not. I really didn't get into it. But he said, I got to tell you about a manifesting story. I'm like, all right, let's get on it.
I know.
I don't know what it is. I'd rather just be surprised when he comes on.
I know he had spent a little time in Miami. He went from California to Miami, and then he was trying to get to New York. But that was the last I heard. So, yeah. We'll have to find out what it is. But Carlos, among other things, has done stand-up comedy. So He brings a great sense of humor, and you can always count on getting some laughs in whenever he's on. So,
Love it.
yeah. So I don't really have a specific topic for us today, but just kind of in general, I thought it was just kind of a good week to talk about what are I guess I had direct experience with what are the direct advantages of staying in a good space, in a positive space. I've had that with what's going on with the TV stuff. But in general, I think it's a general good practice to do everything we can to just, refocus our attention daily through whatever practices.
It's the only way to survive, especially now.
I think so.
And it's the only way to help what's going on out there by us holding that vibration. And I know I say it over and over and over again, and sending that love out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. And it's also, it's kind of a weird thing too, because we've mentioned this before. When we're putting stuff out there, we don't know it's necessarily doing something. We don't see it necessarily in most cases.
It's doing something. We just have to trust it. I trust it completely.
Yeah.
I don't know about you ladies. I find that on those occasions when it does come back to me in some way, where I find that something I put out there is echoing back, that kind of reinforces for me, yeah, it really does work. It really does pay off.
Oh God, yeah. There's no doubt. It's you don't need many people even gathered to make a big difference.
Yeah.
And
another thing about that too is I know a couple of nights ago I kept waking up and then my mind went towards like different problems that are going on in the world, and it started to affect me, and I'm like, no, I'm just not going there. So I just started pulling in light and just building that light and that love and sending it out. And the more I sent it out, the more it built. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm good again, and I just went to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So you help yourself by, even if you don't think about anybody else out there, by you helping yourself to stay in a higher vibration, which is going to help your immediate family or your animals or whoever's in the space with you, that trickles out. It absolutely does. And especially if you don't even have to intend for it to go out. Like Rita and I will want to send energy out, right? But just by you holding the higher vibe, you're lifting the vibration for the planet as well. So What if everybody put a little effort into just lifting their vibration? Imagine what would happen then, right? It's like the group meditations. Remember we did the Power of 8 a long time ago.
Oh, right. Yeah.
All those studies, and I'm sure Rita's familiar with them, where you get a group of meditators together and it changes. Crime rates go down in the areas that they do it in. I mean, it has an effect that can be measured. So just feel good. You'll help people by feeling good.
Yeah. And if you get into the habit of pulling in source energy into your energy and building it, so that when you give it out, you're never depleted of it, because you continually bring it to you. And it's kind of like it comes, just think about it coming through the crown and moving out and coming back around again like a big circle, and you're consistently being filled. I like to think of it like that, like filled up, even though your intention is also giving to the world. And even if you don't have the intention of that, but you're holding it, like Linda is saying, you will never be depleted. And that to me is very important, because the minute you get depleted, you can't help anybody.
Well, you can't even help yourself.
Right.
And you know what? All you have to do is do something you enjoy, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be difficult. Just find something you enjoy doing and go do it. And you'll find that your energy shifts just by distracting yourself by doing something you enjoy.
It's true.
And it doesn't have to be hard, right?
No.
You enjoy reading a book? Read a book. Go for a walk. Watch a movie. Dance. Do anything. Anything that you enjoy doing, just do it.
Yeah.
You owe it to yourself to just do it.
The idea is to remove the guilt from that, because a lot of people go, I don't have time for this. I gotta do shit. I mean, read a book. Like maybe before I go to sleep tonight. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
People need to get out of that habit of feeling guilty because they want to take an hour to do something for themselves. Right. half hour. I don't care if it's 15 minutes. Do it.
Right. They keep putting themselves last. Well,
Mhm.
how good does that make you feel to always
Yeah,
put
right.
yourself, like you can't feel good if you're always putting yourself last because it's like you're not granting yourself any beingness or any respect or any love by doing that.
Yeah, and then they become the victim and the martyr, and they go, oh,
Right.
I got too much of this and I got too much of that, and they don't realize that they're responsible for that. They think the whole world around them is, but it isn't.
Yeah, and I like how you say, and maybe this is going to off some kind of topic, who knows? I like how you say becoming the martyr, because a lot of people do that to themselves. And half of the stuff that they're doing that makes them be the one that has to do everything, and they're the martyr, and they have to give to a lot of that stuff they can just ask their family members for help, and their family members will probably say, oh, okay, I'll do that. But they can't ask because they have to be the martyr.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty self-destructive. No doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
That's an Italian heritage thing.
I think across ethnic lines, I think there are a lot of ethnicities that do that, actually.
Yeah.
Known for that. They walk around. They think they're going to get canonized when they're in spirit. Just like, that's not happening.
It's funny. We're making fun of them, but they don't know any better. It's what they were taught. I mean,
Of
it's
course.
like, it's a virtue to be the martyr, like.
Yes, absolutely. They feel like that by sacrificing, that they're going to get rewarded somehow for
I'm a good person, then God will accept me.
I'm going through the gates when it's time. So, but
Hey, listen, Reed and I can bust that way because right now we're busting on Italians. We're both Italians. So,
right.
Anyone getting mad at us? We're talking about ourselves. Not ourselves, our family, because we don't obviously do that. We broke away. And that's what we try to help other people do.
Right. Exactly. And you got to be able to bust, because that's half the fun in it. We don't mean anything by it. We're just having fun.
You got to laugh. I mean, laughter is one of the best ways of releasing blocks and resistances and everything else.
The two things I want every day. I want to be, there's the gratefulness, and I have to laugh every day. Past that, everything else kind of falls into place.
And it really does pay to do those, whatever your things are that you like to do every day, to do them more often. I experienced that this past week on Monday. I talked a little bit about it on the Tuesday show with David Strickle in the Stream of David, how I had, really Monday night, I had a crash and burn. I mean, something just came out of nowhere and just knocked me on my butt. And if it had happened, say, 10 to 15 years ago, before I had really started to learn this stuff, it could have affected me for like 6 months. And it turned into like a spiral. I can see how it could have turned into a pretty bad spiral that would have hit me physically in some really major ways. But because of the work that I've been doing on myself and deliberately spending time focusing more on things that I enjoy and so forth, I was able to climb out of it in an hour. Now, I had a lot of help from Louise. Don't get me wrong. I didn't do it all by myself.
Right.
But I mean, there's a big difference between 1 hour and 6 months. I'm just saying,
and just by acknowledging that, then it can happen easier and easier. Because I had something like that reoccur this week. Because, I used to work in advertising, and everything needed to be done last week or last month. So it was constantly that push, like you couldn't stop. So I found myself in that energy this past week. And I'm like, I could feel it. I'm like, what? Why am I have no deadline. I don't have to rush. I have all the time in the world. Like there's not something that I had to get to that stuff was getting in the way of, but I had that energy come up. I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not staying with this energy. I'm like, we gotta shift that thing out. I'm surprised it even came up again, but it did, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, all right, let's clear it.
Yeah.
We have to recognize that stuff happens. I mean, even if we're going to be in the highest vibe we can be in all the time, stuff's still going to happen.
Yeah.
It isn't about whether or not we can prevent it. It's about how we're going to respond to it.
Right.
Because if we respond to it in a way that reinforces it, we just basically screwed ourselves. But if we responded to it in a way that says, you know what, I can gain some perspective on this. I could even find a way to like some piece of it, even though I don't like it. And it just disappears quickly.
Unfortunately, and maybe Rita can add to this, it's like the ego wants you to be in that, Yeah. So the thing is that once you start realizing it and you know what it feels like, you can look at it and be like, no, I'm just not going there. Like, why are you coming up again? Like, what's the point of this? But
Right.
it is kind of like, it is for me. I feel like it's like the ego is like still trying to grip. Like, yeah, you think you got rid of me? Watch, I'll show you something. No, I'm
No,
gonna get
it's
you.
very true. The other thing that the ego banks on is you staying in the same pattern over and over again. So, like people, oh, hold on, drop my thing here. People have been asking me recently, how long is this going to be? Like this whole thing that's happening between the pandemic and what's going on in the White House and, the whole politics thing. And I said to them, don't concentrate on how long it's going to be. Concentrate on what you can do to make your world good. Like, don't worry about when it's going to end, because there's a lot of change that needs to happen. And it's not going to end like just at, like the snap of a finger. We're learning the biggest lesson we ever came to learn here. And that's how to coexist and remember, coexist without hurting each other, without
labeling and bringing in all these
right.
things to be separate for.
Yep.
That's right. That and treating each other the way we would want to be treated, and collectively coming together as one instead of this whole separation thing that we've created. That's it. We are in the crux of it. Don't worry about when it's going to end. What you have to do is, what can you do to help yourself get into that better space? What can you do to help yourself make the changes you need to make? Because once you make those changes, again, it goes out. And people look at you and they go, oh, she could do it, I could do it. And then they start to make changes. I'm sorry, go ahead, Linda.
I was just gonna say, and we can remind people, and I feel it's very true. There's so much light coming to the planet. So when that light is coming to the planet, it's like those, we'll call it darker energies. It's like they're fighting for their life right now. That's why it's popping up in every which way you can imagine. It's coming up to the surface, and it's like, it wants to be seen, but what it doesn't realize is the more we see it, the more it dissolves, because it used to be hiding in the shadows, right? And now it's like there's so much light. It's like it's boiling up. It's like the earth is being the puppy, the wet puppy, and just shaking it all off.
That's a nice analogy. I like that.
Right? And that energy's coming up to the surface where we can all see it. We're like, holy shit, what's going on?
But that's directly connected to that ego. That's why it comes in like that. They know how to use the ego, the darker, energies. Yeah. They know how to use the ego to try and get you to fall back to what you were used to. And it's so easy to do that because there's a certain comfort zone by being so used to being that way. You know what I mean? So sometimes we have to get out of the comfort zone to move ahead. And there's nothing, there's no destruction in that. Because people sometimes feel like, oh my God, am I going to be able to survive it? 100%. You were made to survive all of it. You're that strong. You're that powerful. And I don't mean powerful in the way of, having power over. I mean, you're that empowered.
And we came here for this experience that's going on right now.
Well, that's the one thing people, I don't think, realize.
That's a hard thing for people to get, yeah. So, but I don't know if I made my point before, but my point was, as we're seeing all of this coming up, we should be like, okay, people are going to hate me, but yay!
Right?
This is great!
Right.
It's awful, but it's great at the same time. Because it's actually the demise of it. Because again, we're moving from that third dimension to the fifth, and this stuff has to come up and be dismantled, and that's what's happening. And the way you contribute, the way we individually contribute, is by being our best self, seeing our own shit that's coming up to the surface, because it's happening everywhere.
Everywhere. The whole fucking world. It's the bottom line. We are, everyone in every part of this earth is experiencing this in one shape, form, or another. There's no one is getting like, oh, let me move to, I don't know, Iceland and see if this all goes away. No, it doesn't.
And it does bring in. Oh, and one quickie. This is a quickie. It does bring in, as we see this globally, that we are all going through it together. We are all connected. It is all of us, not just sections of us.
Right. Right.
The thing I have to bring in is we had a question for Rita, for a psychic question from Carla, who's actually written in before, and it fits perfectly with what you were just saying. So here it is. She says, I've been looking to move and have been hindered in the past. Is this a good time to take the step?
You know how many people have asked me about moving, and I tell them all. If you feel compelled to move, don't think you're moving and all of this is going away, because it's not. If you're moving because you feel like your energy needs to be in a different place. Great. Perfect. Okay? Then yes, you move. But if you're running from something, I don't care what it is. If you think you're going to run from something, it's not going to happen. It will come with you until it's settled. Mm-hmm. So I don't see an issue with her moving. I think there's something going on with family, and that's why her hindering is a family thing, not her moving. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's what it feels like to me. So, but just in general, like people say to me, I just want to get out of here. Like people are running from New York City to here. Like I want to tell them, I don't know, like fine, but we're no different.
Yeah.
We are no different than New York City or Florida or anywhere else right now. Yes, there are populations maybe that are not hit as hard as us with the pandemic, which is that's another thing. We're all being affected by the pandemic, not just one of us, right? So that just goes to show you we're all in this together. So, you can wallow in the crap, or you can shift it and learn from it.
By the way, speaking of COVID, I had mentioned in the past weeks that Patty Framo, who used to be a co-host here on the show, had shared with me a few weeks back that she had been diagnosed. Yes, I had COVID. So she was dealing with the coronavirus. And so I actually reached out to her today because she was posting something on Facebook. I said, how's it going? How are you feeling? Are you past it yet? And she wrote back, she's feeling great. So yes, she's got it all behind her. And I wanted to make sure I shared that, partly because there are people here who are listeners who remember Patty, and partly because it's important to remember there are a lot of very happy stories coming from people who are recovering. There's a lot of people recovering from COVID.
I just moved my karate school into another fitness center's space. We're sharing space. And there's actually 2 fitness centers in the same big building. Just about every trainer there has had COVID.
Wow.
They're like, yeah, it was like a regular flu, and I got over it. Most of the people you talk to, that's what the experience is. And a lot of them, they didn't even know they had it. So who knows if the test is right or not. But if it was, they didn't have symptoms.
Right.
So it's not like, and that's the majority as opposed to the ones who had the really, really horrendous experiences.
Yeah. And there are people who have had horrendous experiences, but it's important to remember 94% of the people who have been diagnosed and had a resolution to it have survived it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that kind of gets glossed over, but that means most people are surviving it. That's really important. That's like reinforcing that doesn't okay. We can get past this.
And why does it get glossed over? Because it doesn't sell fear. But that's okay, because we need all that fear to come up so we can just blast it once and for all.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's true. Very, very true.
And also, I think people. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think people need to understand too. Those that have not survived it were honestly not meant to be here for this next piece that's coming. Like there are just some that said, I'm out of here. I don't want I don't want to deal with this any longer. What's going on the earth? And so it's the same thing like anything like 9/11. Like there were people that stayed home that day. There were people that had their kids was sick. There were people that just not, and there were those that said, no, I'm going to be a part of this history that blah, blah, blah. Right. I mean, look at Mother Teresa. How many people was she in contact with that had God knows what?
Oh, yeah.
Diseases. The woman never got anything, really. You know what I mean? Like, that was it. So, if you're not supposed to, you won't, And you just have to do what makes you comfortable. Don't worry about what the rest of the world says or thinks about it. Mm-hmm. Even if half the people say, this is crazy, we shouldn't have to wear masks anymore, everybody should be able to throw parties. Well, when you get invited to a party, if you feel comfortable, you go. If you don't, you don't. If you need to wear a mask, you wear it. And if you don't, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like, let's not fight about if we got to do this or we don't. Let's just do what makes you comfortable so the anxiety isn't high anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's what's causing the craziness and the chaos is the anxiety.
Wouldn't it be great if more people went inside to ask themselves the kinds of things you were just saying rather than going to news reporters or whatever, just going inside and saying, how do I feel about this?
How does this feel? Does this feel right that I should? Yeah. Absolutely.
I
think twice already I forgot my mask and I had to go back to my car.
All the time. You know what?
Twice.
So I said I just opened my karate school. Well, I did reopen in July, and like 1 to 3 people would come to any class. So we couldn't stay doing that. And most people were online still through Zoom. Well, now we reopen. That was July. So now we're in September and we reopen, and quite a lot of the kids and the adults are coming back.
Oh.
There are still some on Zoom because the parents are just, they don't feel comfortable yet, and that's their choice.
That's fine.
But so many more, I think, because especially with the kids, adults, they make up their own mind, they come or they go. But I think a lot of these parents are just tired of their kids being stuck in a house in front of a computer all day for school, and then they're going to do computer karate too. No,
yeah, right.
They're sending them over,
Get out of this house. I'm tired of seeing it. Right?
But the kids are going stir crazy, They're like, they don't get to see friends, they want to be with people.
If this happened when we were kids, this would have never been a problem because we were always outside.
Right.
That's true.
It was never an issue. We were never inside on a computer or playing video games and all that.
Well, there were no computers. That kind of helps, but still.
I remember because I had the first Atari, but I wasn't on it 16 hours a day.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It just...
We were in the street playing Kick the Can. Did you play
Kick the Can? Oh, my
God. Yeah, kickball, the whole thing.
Yep. Oh, it's true. It's true.
Climbing trees, collecting bugs, Yeah, that's what we did.
You were a bug collector, really?
Yeah. I was a real tomboy and, Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the lightning bugs used to, right?
Oh, put them in the
all
jar?
Kinds,
yeah.
All kinds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Good stuff.
I had read to you a couple of emails from people who were writing in to say thank you, and I realized I had neglected one, so I can't leave this one out of the loop, okay?
Okay.
So this one comes from Alexandria, and it's a little bit lengthy, so bear with me while I read it. She says, "Hi, Rita. You answered a question on the show today from me. First, thank you so much. It felt so great to hear someone speak to my recent experience. I had so meant to be watching live so I could add to this conversation, but I just wasn't in a position to watch live. My question was the one about the extremely intense surges of energy and the visions that are coming with them. I wanted to update you on this situation. These surges and visions came over and over many times for 3 days. The next day, it is true that I was exhausted and somewhat disoriented. However, things started to change the following night and the next day. I felt amazing, like I'd never felt before. It felt like I was cycling through all these different feelings, a new one every second. It was like I was receiving some kind of update or download. It reminds me of things that you've talked about, Linda. My whole mind and body felt electric, like I could fly if I tried. Not really, but you know what I mean. The same thought kept coming to me. This is how people felt when the world was new. I wish I could feel that way forever. I chose to take a break from my spiritual journey for some years back because my experiences had gotten a little too intense, but I am completely committed this time. Once you know certain things, you can't go back to not knowing. I haven't had the visions for a couple days now, and I don't feel quite as exhilarated as I did yesterday, but I could still pretty easily pick up on the essence or feeling tone from them. My question to you is this. I am considering using a Ouija board to ask if someone is trying to communicate with me. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it is safe? Thank you in advance for any advice.
That's so funny because in my house, growing up, a Ouija board was taboo. But I am of the, mindset of when you put a positive intention out there, you could really use any modality to help you connect to spirit. Like I would tell anybody, when you do that, you have to be aware that that you can open a door to an unpleasant entity. And so you want to make sure that you're clear, you're grounded, you kind of surround yourself and protect yourself no matter what you're doing, and that your intention is pure. And then, by all means, I know people that use Ouija boards. It's like anything else. You can open up a portal to the good or to not so good. Okay? So you just have to be aware and be careful. Linda, if there's anything you want to add to that. In my house, there was never a Ouija board allowed in my house growing up. Now, I don't feel connected to it. It's not something I feel connected to, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. You know what I mean?
You know what? I did respond to her because I don't know, somehow either she sent it to me or I don't know how I got it, but I responded to her that, yeah, I'll use one. I'll use, not a Ouija board. The Psychic Circle. This board is so much fun. It has the zodiac in there. It has the elements in there. It has all these different things. It's got the planets in there, like all these different ways to get messages. And the booklet comes with all the explanations for all of that and what things are going to happen. So, some weird sound thing happened. And it gives you instructions on how to set the space and what you're asking for, like so that you're calling in only the highest of vibrational beings to assist you and work with you. So I have so much fun with this board just for the fun of it. Or sometimes when I can't tap into something for myself, I'll be like to my husband or my son, you guys want to get on the board? Let's do the board. And we just have a ball doing this thing. It's really fun. And a lot of times the messages come in, at least the way my guides put it, very comical. Like they have this personality, a sense of humor coming through the messages that come in the board. So right. I have fun with it. I don't think it's at all scary, but maybe because of the board that I have that I use, the Psychic Circle.
With what you guys were talking about earlier regarding the fact that the world as a whole is going through this upheaval and more light is coming in and so forth. It makes me think about what Alexandria was writing in her note because she was experiencing these amazing experiences, like these whole dreams and dream sequences and whatever coming through to her. And I imagine there are probably other listeners who have experienced something perhaps similar, maybe not exactly the same as what she's experiencing. But anytime we experience something new like that, it can be a little bit surprising, a little bit shocking, maybe even intimidating. I've heard stories from people who were just, thrilled, absolutely thrilled by what happened. Other stories from people who were, oh my God, this is more than I can handle. So maybe you guys could talk about that for a little bit. When you start getting stuff that you hadn't gotten before, how do you handle that? What's the best way to think about that?
I think connecting to, reaching out to somebody that may already know, or, also asking yourself, okay, talking to the spirit world, asking what is this? What am I experiencing here? And listening and just feeling through it, not to get scared right away and, run. But there's so many people out there now that you can connect to, that understand the experiences and can walk you through them, that I think that's a good way of working with it. Yeah,
and then the fear and things like that is most, unless slim chances that it's really something to be worried about. Most likely it's just an awakening process that you're going through. But it's only because of outside programming of people have told you to make you think it's scary or it's bad or it's evil or it's this or it's that. So then you want to do exactly what Rita said, if you're not elated by the experience, and just want to know more and understand it, as opposed to play with it, have fun. But if you do have some fear, but the part of you remembers how to have all this psychic ability because you already know it, you've already done it at a different point that right now you're not at in a higher dimension, you can find someone like Rita, someone like me to talk to ask about it. Is that Alex, what was her name?
Alexandria.
Her questions came through a blog post that she landed on my website. Mm-hmm. So she was looking and reaching out for someone to help her to make sense of this. And look, she found it.
She did.
Now there's so many so many healers, so many psychics, so many mediums that you end up getting a referral from someone that can help. There's just no, and Spirit will always guide you to where you need to be. So all you have to do is ask, and most importantly, people need to understand that they have their free will gives them the how do you want to put it? The ability to say to Spirit, hold on. I am not comfortable with this. I don't understand it. You need to help me here. And I don't want to experience this right now until I understand it. That's all you have to do. And don't let the fear override what's happening. And sometimes it's not even yours. It's somebody else's. That's the other thing people have to understand. I've walked into a room and I feel a certain way and it has nothing to do with me. I just picked up on somebody else's energy. So.
That's important.
I had an experience. I had an experience once, and I know Rita, I think I've talked to you or somehow connected to you after you did maybe a psychic reading, like an event with Ro. And you're like, okay. Yeah, I go home and they're all at my bed and you're wanting to talk to me. I got to tell them to go away. I remember you saying that, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I had the experience where these two beings were in my room and I woke up. It scared the shit out of me. And I'm like I'm like pulling on my husband. I'm like, couldn't get my words out because these two guys were in the room. He's like, what? There's nothing there. I'm like, and then they just left. Yeah. And I didn't understand it back then. So I was like, I never want that to happen again. Right? I totally cut it off. But now I would like it to happen again. But I know there's probably still this bit where I'd be like, oh. So I think that when I can let that go, then maybe I can have that experience again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's like when, what's that, Walt?
I told a similar story one time here on the podcast about how we were asleep and in the middle of the night, I was in that half dream state. I wasn't deeply asleep. I wasn't awake. I was like halfway. And all of a sudden, this face came at me, came in really, really close, like inches away from mine and said, hello. And it just scared the bejesus out of me. I said, what was that? And Louise says, what? I said, what the hell was that? And Louise says, what are you talking about? There's nothing here.
That was Ghostbusters. The blob. That's funny.
So I understand that feeling of being scared out of your sleep. It's not a fun feeling.
Yeah. It's so easy for them to connect to you when you're in that in-between state because you're not fully asleep and you're not fully awake. And it's like meditating, so they can very easily get in that way.
Well, and plus we travel out. So you might think it's happening in your bedroom, but maybe you're still somewhere else and haven't come back yet. And you're seeing what's going on there. I've
had it where I'm out and I wake up and I'm not fully in my body, even though I'm awake. Yeah. And I cannot move until I get myself fully in my body. It's almost like being, paralyzed,
Yeah.
And that's just to let people know it happens, not to get scared. It's just you're not fully back in your body yet. That's all.
And the other side of that too is sometimes you come back too fast.
Yeah.
And that's startling.
Yep.
Well, what I can tell you, my case was when I experienced that, and after I had settled down a little bit, Louise and I were talking about it, of course, and I ended up deciding to say, okay, whoever you are, if you're going to try that again, don't come in so close. That's the part that scared me. You can stay back. I heard you just fine. You don't have to come up and shout it in my face, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
And they never did again.
And that's what you're, as a human with free will and as a spiritual being, you're allowed to say that.
Yeah.
You're allowed to command that from the energy. That's the beauty.
Unfortunately, they listen.
Yeah. They have to. They have to. They can't override that.
Mm. Yeah, it's hard to remember sometimes just how incredibly powerful we are. I mean, in our human state, we tend to undermine and discount how powerful we are as creators, as source energy, but we're pretty powerful.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
Let's see. So I have other questions I could go to. I have a feeling this is actually a good time for Linda to pull one of those cards out. And I think I see her reaching for something over there.
Go, Linda.
I don't know. One deck was kind of calling me, so.
I had this feeling that was happening. That's why I wanted to kind of stop and go in that direction. Like there's something there for us. So let's find out what it is.
Or do you want to do the next question and I'll just shuffle up and we'll ask Spirit to,
Okay. Well, we can do that.
Why don't you do that?
Mix it all together. All right.
Yeah. Well, the intention is that the right card comes up right after this next question. Right after this next question.
Stay tuned after this question.
Yeah.
So this is from Josie, who's also written in before. She's one of our usual live streamers too. And she says, hi, Rita and Linda. Thank you for your input on my grandfather. I wanted to contact you two because I've been trying to write a novel for a long time, but each time I start a new story based on an idea, I lose motivation. As much as I like writing short poems and flash fiction, I want to expand my horizons to longer form. So can you, if possible, contact the higher realm to see what genre or story scenario would be best for my creative flow?
She's saying she wants to write a story about her grandfather?
No, she started off by saying thank you for input you gave about her grandfather in a previous question that she had raised. And then she went on to ask this question about writing.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I'm hearing that she needs to write about her own experience here. From childhood up. Doesn't necessarily have to be, it can be in a fiction form, because some people write their story, but they make it fiction. Mm-hmm. They change things. They make it, you know what I mean? Yep. So, but something about writing it brings a huge healing to her. Yeah. And the procrastination is her doubting the ability that she can do it. That's all.
And we know from experience here on the show, because she's actually come onto the show one time to read her poetry, and her poetry was really very positive, good feeling stuff. So she has the ability.
Yeah. No, she's very, very talented. She should try every day, begin the writing process, 10 minutes of writing anything and everything that's in her head. And not nonstop. Like, we don't put periods, commas, question marks, anything. You just keep writing. After that 10 minutes, take a deep breath, start writing your story. It's going to help move her into the story.
And by the way, I see her in the live stream, so she's getting this live too, which is good.
Yeah, and she's got to understand that when she does start, Spirit will bring her more information, more information. She's not doing this alone. She's got several entities on the other side helping her do this.
So I kind of picked up on some like childlike wonder is the energy that was coming to me. So whether it's something that she's writing geared towards children or just from that enthusiasm and excitement of that child and bringing that energy into however she tells this story. Because it feels like it could be like a very uplifting thing and bringing in that magic. I don't know how that applies, but that's just kind of what came in.
You're right. It's very uplifting. It's absolutely so. And she may be able to, instead of it being an actual book, it could be experiences, short stories, and then after she writes about it, then she writes something positive about it. Like, in other words, she'll write the story like a short story, and all in one book. After that, she writes a very positive poem, or what did you call it, Walt?
She called it short poems and flash fictions.
Yeah, and poetry or whatever. About that afterwards, a very positive, uplifting thing about that. That's just something that flew in now. So there's multiple ways she can do it. We're just giving her examples from Spirit.
Yeah, and then when Rita was saying that, what popped in for me too is maybe each of those chapters, or because I think Rita said the story of her life or her own experience. Maybe she writes it from the voice of who she was at that time in that story and puts that flavor to it, the discovery of it, and then she matures as she goes on through the book. Right? I don't know.
You could write it from the sense of a child, as a teenager, as an adult. Put yourself in the first, third person, whatever feels right. But the best thing is have fun with it. That's the most important thing.
Well, this is a good example of what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, because we were talking about the importance of spending more time and more attention focused on things that we enjoy doing. That's good to us. I mean, this falls right into that category, because we already know Josie is a very positive writer. She writes about very positive stuff. So why not focus on positive stuff that is meaningful to you, that's actually fun to you?
Yeah. They just want her to go deeper with herself. That's what this is. Mm-hmm. That's what this is about. So
okay. So maybe this is also for her, and that's why you had to do that question first. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't question these things. But the card is Ride the Wave. We got it in reverse, but this is what the card looks like.
Okay.
Ride the wave?
Ride the wave.
Ride the wave, and we've got some dolphins there riding a wave.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Number 14. So it's in reverse. So it says, you may be mistaking a rogue wave for a fun ride. You can only coast for so long until you hit the shoreline with a smack. The tide is ebbing, and your activities are now preparing you for when that wonderful wave comes in for you to ride. You're meant to learn how to be strong. You're meant to learn how to be a strong swimmer now. Don't worry. Preparation ensures a successful result. However, you must wait patiently for the right moment to come. Now is the time for conscious preparation and skill building. I don't know.
Very nice.
Well, I can see how that would fit in with what she was saying, because she was talking about how she would start a new story based on a new idea and lose motivation. That's the swimming part.
Maybe it wasn't the right wave yet.
Yeah.
Conscious preparation and skill building. So yeah, maybe all of that, none of it's wasted. Like whatever part you put into it is all leading you towards and building those skills. I don't know.
I think that's it. And then what Rita was saying about, going back to your childhood and writing from that perspective, Linda, you described in more detail about the value of telling it as if you were that voice of that younger child. That's going to bring up stuff that is important to her, first of all. Second of all, she's going to turn that into a very positive story because that's the way that she writes. I think that's actually going to produce the kind of result that you guys were talking about, where she's so engaged.
So you know how, let's just say there was a traumatic event in the life when she was a child, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So she writes about it from the child's perspective. Mm-hmm. And then she writes now a poem or whatever it is from the child's perspective at a higher level to turn it into something positive.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And what she learned from it. You see what I'm saying? Each piece teaches you something. She will heal so many parts of her by doing that. You know, and what'll happen is spirit will come in. The poetry doesn't necessarily have to be, that's the part they're talking about, meaning fiction. It's like, it's what they're going to give her is information on how that dynamic or that situation can change. It doesn't have to be that way now.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed now, and this is how we're changing it through this writing process. And then it's healed, and then we move on to the next thing. I'm going to try that myself.
You know what? Yeah, because I think that card can speak to everybody right now, because we're riding these waves of all this stuff that's going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like because a lot of it has to do with really finding out what's really my truth. What do I want to do? Am I going to waste the rest of my life doing something I hate doing? Like, what do I want? So maybe now it's time to find that wave that just takes you. There's no effort, there's no effort. It just takes you to the next place. So, and we talk about this a lot on this show, like being in the flow of that energy and allowing spirit to move you towards what is your next thing without making yourself feel stuck in a certain place that you've been in that you don't want to be in anymore.
Right.
I think it's astrologically, I've been hearing a lot of stuff about that too. It's like, stop trying to make things work that really don't fill you.
Yeah.
That's good.
100%. Perfect.
I also had another thought come to my mind as you guys were talking there. It's a reminder of like what the great artists would do, like a Leonardo da Vinci, well known for whenever he was going to do a painting, he would do sketches. Right, he kind of sketch out different ideas about how he was going to do this painting, and then he'd find the one that would work best for him, and then he'd actually start doing the painting. Well, in Josie's case, her sketches, so to speak, could be poems. She's really good at writing the poetry. That part seems to be pretty easy for her. So maybe treat the poetry writing as a way to kind of sketch out the ideas of what story she wants to tell from that child's perspective, that young version of herself. Write some poems to kind of spell that out, and then use that as a basis for deciding how she's going to write the longer form piece.
That's beautiful.
All right, I think I got the card to. Did I interrupt? Did I interrupt?
No.
Did I interrupt? Were you finishing a thought, Rita?
No. I was like, you go, Walt. That's awesome. I liked it up there.
Okay, so the card is blow off some steam.
Mm.
All right. And I saw the first sentence, so let's see what it says. It says, and of course, this is the Answer is Simple deck. It says, whoa, easy now. Your ego is feeling threatened. So it has moved into fight or flight. This is like what's going on in the world right now. Mm-hmm. Filling your body with adrenaline, making you ready to come out boxing. When your body is flooded with this hormone, it's difficult to connect with your spirit because you're filled with fear. In this state, you're likely to make rash decisions, say something you don't mean, draw conclusions that aren't accurate, and overact. The best way to reconnect with your spirit and to find the correct course of action at this time is to blow off some steam. Go to the gym and punch a bag. Hop in the shower and scream at the top of your lungs. Visit this shore and yell into the wind. Tell the universe how you feel. Grumble to the heavens and let it all out. If this isn't possible, get a journal, write it down, all your anxieties and your frustrations. Spare no detail. Vent until the adrenaline inside is burned up and you begin to calm down. Make no decisions while you're riled up. Stay off the phone, refrain from sending emails or no text messages either. Wait until you have clarity before you act. As your fear subsides, your spirit will emerge. That's what's happening, right? All this fear is coming up so we can actually connect to spirit and be the spirit that we are. Anyway, It says, as your fear subsides, your spirit will emerge. Just be mindful not to vent or lash out to innocent people. Take your frustrations and anger to a neutral place and release them. Also, be conscious not to hold in your anxiety and stress, denying that it's there. This too blocks your spirit and hurts your body. So blow off some steam and then go have some fun.
A recurring theme.
Good stuff.
Yep. very good stuff. Very good recurring theme there.
What a way to end the show with that. I love it.
No kidding. Yeah. I also want to remind people, since we're obviously not going through all the questions like we used to, because we're trying to make this a broader program for everybody, it's going to mean that some people didn't get their specific question answered, but the questions that we did address, I think, are probably addressing some of the questions that weren't specifically asked. And this goes back to what, Linda, you've talked about a lot, that when a question gets answered, the answer is going out to a lot of different people. And that
Right.
we shouldn't just kind of blow something up. Well, they didn't answer my question. Well, actually, they probably did. You just got to listen to what the other answers were, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I think that card just speaks to what some of the stuff we talked about earlier, is that the planet is blowing off some steam.
That's it.
That's it.
Absolutely.
So just a reminder, make sure that you are putting the LOA Today app to use. Feel free to send in the questions. Obviously, we're not doing all the questions live on the show, but send them in anyway, because we're going to pick the ones that are most in tune with what seems to be happening, kind of like on a Gestalt basis or whatever. When I'm looking at the questions, I look at which ones seem to have the most resonance, not just within me, but would apply to a large number of people. And, so don't be scared off about sending in a question just because we can't get to all of them. Send them in, because you're contributing to that conversation just by sending that question in.
Well, I kind of had an idea. What if you were to write the question on different cards and then just pick randomly?
Yeah, sure.
Because that's kind of like letting spirits say what to talk about, and then probably the conversation. We could even start a show off with a question.
Yeah.
And then as Rita gets into that, it's going to bring up a topic.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So all right. We'll make that part of the methodology going forward. That sounds good.
I think
Awesome.
it'd be fun.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we've got our new format set up. Next week, once again, we're having Carlos Balaskita back to tell us what his fabulous manifestation story was all about. So we'll look forward to that. So be sure to join us for that. And Linda and Rita, I hope you're going to have a wonderful week. This should be a nice
You
weekend.
too.
To enjoy
Yeah.
that again, because we're
That'll be
entering that fall.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's going to be
Beautiful.
really good. So thank you guys much. Thank you especially to our podcast listeners as well as to our live streamers as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.